going to hand the floor over to you.
Thank you, Vic, for having us. I love the adult adoptee movement. I've been kind of following you guys for years, and appreciate all that you do, and appreciate you inviting us here. So I am Louise. I'm an adoptee. I was put in a closed adoption in 1980, and in 2018, I took a DNA test to find my mom, Linda. And the reason why I had to do that was because in the state I was adopted in and born in, it was closed. I wasn't allowed access to my original birth certificate, so I had no way of finding who my mom was or anything like that. And when I found her in 2018, it was the greatest of times and it was the worst of times. And we've kind of been on a whole reunion journey and learning about adoption ever since. So we deep dived into as many Zoom online resources as we could find, Adoption Network Cleveland, National Association of Adoptees and Parents, Vic's group of adoptees from Adoptee Twitter, Cub, Concerned United Birth Parents. So we just tried to absorb as much as we could and interact with as many adoptees and birth parents as we could. And in the last couple of years, we kind of saw a need for places for mixed groups of adoptees, birth parents, and those who support us to learn from one another and kind of get to know each other. So we actually 2024, we created a new group through our Traveling Together Through Trauma, which is sponsored by Cub now. And we created a constellation group where we have spouses, partners, grandparents, siblings come and learn about what adoption does to birth parents and adoptees. Do you want to talk a little bit more about?
And I mean, it is for those that support the adoptee and the birth parents, but we have also found that there's so much more understanding when the two tribes come together, when the adoptees and the birth mothers come together, even if you don't have a successful reunion, in that you can understand the other's situation and you learn more about what you've been through and you learn more about relinquishment and adoption. And I think it's really, really important for those two tribes to come together, and especially if you're interested in reunion and to continue the reunion in a healthy way, to understand the other's experience, because it's not what we think in our heads. It's just not what we think in our heads. So to hear the actual words coming out of the actual person and understanding takes a lot of work and takes a lot of time, but it is so worthwhile because then there's understanding and relationship.
Yeah, we've learned so much from one another and just other adoptees and birth parents. And we've interacted with people in Canada, the UK, Australia, all different places. And even though everybody's kind of situation is different and how the adoption went down is different and the rules and the laws are different, a lot of the loss and the feelings and the anxieties and all that is very common across the board globally. So we just like to create a space for people to come together, talk about their lived experience, learn from one another, and support one another. So that's kind of our goal and what we've kind of been doing the last year plus year and a half. And it's been really, really helpful for us and has helped start conversations that we still continue to this day. We recently had a talk about, I initially, when I found her, I said I was the cause of all her grief, her pain, her shame. And she was like, no, 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 you're not the cause. But like me, the adoptee, I felt like if I didn't exist, she wouldn't have dealt with all that she dealt with. So I took that on in the beginning, but over the years, I've kind of said, well, I'm not the cause because that gives me like I did something to do it. But so I kind of look at it as more, I'm the catalyst. Like it's a passive thing where just because of me being born and her having that situation, I'm the catalyst for what came after. She still doesn't agree with that, but we're getting closer. And a couple of other adoptees, especially some older adoptees, said that, yeah, they felt that too. So having those conversations and talking about the feelings and the anxieties and the stressors that we go through is really, really helpful. So yeah, yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit more about kind of? issues that we've gone through?
Well, I think that has been the biggest one lately. Yeah, we were in a support situation, which we had some adoptees who've been in adoption land, as we call it, for decades and have done the work, have been through therapy, but still affected so much by that they carry the burden that they are the cause of everything that's happened to their mother. And emotions are emotions that you can't, it's not a rational thing. It's just an emotion. It's a feeling, and you have to validate it and then look at it. And so that is a commonality in a lot of adoptees. And birth parents need to know that. And they need to be really aware of that and talk through that. Because my first reaction was I was flippant and I said, oh, the cause was a 17-year-old having unprotected sex. That was the cause. And I understand that it is a burden that all adoptees, not all, but many adoptees carry, and I need to look at that, and I need to see it, and I need to hear it and work through it with those adoptees. We run into a lot of things like that are always surprising when we bring the two tribes together.
Well, one of the things that we found out, especially as listening to other people's reunions and things like that, is that a lot of the defense mechanisms that birth parents have created to just survive and get through their day-to-day actively harms and causes problems when the adoptee shows up, because those defense mechanisms, they kind of can make the adoptee feel less than, or that they're going to be abandoned again, because they just can't trust and open up the way that they should be able to their own kid. But a lot of that's just societal. You see all the movies, the television, and everything that adoption is a net positive, a net good, and they don't really get into all the difficult issues that both birth families and adoptees have to deal with on the day-to-day. And so many of us are fogged. I know Vic had mentioned the fog before. I was fogged the first 2 years, and I did and said the things I thought I was supposed to do. And those were the things that actively pissed her off and made her angry and upset, and like could have blown up my reunion. But because we kind of came up with a way that we could communicate with one another and work through those things, that has made it some successful for us. And we just want to help others to see like what the other person's going through, so you can kind of have an understanding and compassionate and kindness for that other person as well as yourself. So yeah, yeah, definitely in the beginning, I made some mistakes, but I've been learning along the way, and we hope to help others kind of see the problems that they're dealing with and kind of find a way forward that is healthy for both them and the person they're trying to connect with. And for those international adoptees that like they don't have an option to connect with their mom because maybe they can't get a DNA test in that country, it's banned. Like India doesn't allow DNA tests. So maybe they're hitting a wall and they're not able to find their birth mom. Being able to talk to a birth mom and find out what they're going through, and that they did think about the adoptee, and that they do love the adoptee, and that they want the best for the adoptee, that can be somewhat healing for the adoptee. So it's good to have those mixed groups where we can kind of come together and share our experiences and our thoughts and kind of just process that way, because we have to kind of deprogram ourselves. I know Vic has talked about like it's almost like we're in a cult. So you kind of have to deprogram yourself from the cult and then find the truth and find what really works. So that's just something that we've taken to heart, and that we try and work through. And support others. I personally talk to a bunch of adoptees in the UK that we chat and we kind of catch up, and we talk about issues that they're going through, interactions with siblings and how difficult that can be. And one of the things we found out is that a lot of birth parents, when they relinquish, if they had a child before relinquishment, they had a natural bond with that child. But then the adoptee, they may have difficulty connecting with and bonding with. And then any subsequent children, they will raise differently than if they had never relinquished. So talking about that and making sure that the moms understand that they have work to do too, and that they need to kind of look at how they're dealing with some of these people, and that stiff upper lip and just keep moving forward is not necessarily the healthy way forward. And it kind of doesn't lead to good outcomes for reunions. So that's just some things that we've seen kind of over the last couple of years, and yeah. So anything to add to that?
I love the cult thing. Yeah, the cult thing. I call it the pamphlet. It seems like all adoptees are handed a pamphlet when they're adopted, and they all use the same terminology and the same thoughts. And I just found that amazing. And also amazing when I was in adoptee spaces, when adoptees would say, "Do you think my mother thinks about me? Do you think they love me?" Which is astounding as a mother to hear that, because I can absolutely guarantee your mother thought about you every day and loved you. And why is it that you don't know that? Why is it that adoptees don't know that? That's horrifying. And another thing that Louise touched on is absolutely, we cannot say it enough, that the skills you develop as a birth mother to survive as a birth mother do not do you any favors at all when you go into reunion or try to have real regular relationships, emotionally intelligent relationships with anyone. I know I shut down when I relinquished my daughter. I know I did. And I had two more children after that I kept and raised. And I know for a fact that I did not bond with them as fully as I could have if I hadn't relinquished a child for a myriad of reasons, tons of reasons, which is why we have therapy. But absolutely, since Louise has found me and she is in my life, and I have done the work and found out about what it's like to be an adopted person and find out what it really truly means to be a birth mother and all that entails and all that was done to my brain and her brain, that after doing that work, I have true, authentic, emotionally intelligent relationships with friends that I've known my life, but I wasn't ever allowing myself to be vulnerable with them. But because she came into my life and I did the work and came out of the fog, I could have better relationships with my family, with my friends, and with other humans just in general. But it takes that work, and it takes acknowledging the damage done by the relinquishment and the damage done by never being with someone that you're supposed to be with. It does damage, and you create these ridiculous ways of functioning. And I see reunions failing because we rely on those terrible skills we learned to survive being a birth mother or being an adoptee. So it's reframing all that, coming together with two halves of a trauma, dealing with the trauma fully with intelligence, and taking the blinders off. And it's hard work. It's just hard work, and it's awful. And you go through, and as a mom, moms beat themselves up all the time for all the problems of their children anyway. But yeah, when you find out that your child has complex post-traumatic stress disorder because you relinquish them, and their brain is changed and altered and will be affected their whole lives, yeah, that hurts. That hurts a lot. But we have to acknowledge that, and we have to deal with it, and we have to acknowledge it in our children and other adoptees and move forward. And we found that we can provide situations where those two factions of people can come together and have understanding, and then there's healing. There's a lot of healing.
Well, and just from me, my perspective, the first 2 years I was definitely in the fog, and I was very much under my adoptive parents' thumb and was very did all the obligations and tied myself in knots and did everything for everybody else. And when she said, "I want to understand you, I want to know you," that was the first time where I actually did any self-reflection. And that's when I started to kind of process my own identity and create who I really am, not who I was to everybody else. And that was very freeing. And it just was, and she loved every minute of it, just trying to get to know me and for me to open up. And I have better relationships now, and I can interact more with people, and I have a deeper emotional level than I had before.
Oh hell, this girl's completely different since when the person I met in 2018. This girl's completely different.
So it can be very healing, but even if the reunions don't work out, the work is worth it because you can become more of a real person. And just kind of learning everything that happened to you and what adoption is. It can make you angry, it can make you sad, but it's ultimately healing in a way that you can kind of process it and go through it and figure out, who do I want to be? do I want to be, what I'm supposed to be? I'm going to be the people pleaser. I'm going to do everything for everybody else. I'm going to, or am I going to set boundaries and know that, oh, I can say no to things. That was huge. Saying no to things was something I never did. So she kind of helped me see that I could make those choices and it was okay. So yeah, that's been very healing for me and helpful for me. And just finding other adoptees has been amazing and wonderful. And I've had deeper friendships with adoptees than I've had even with my best college friends and everything, because they understand in a way, but they don't have the lived experience to really grasp what adoption does and what it is to adoptees and birth families. So,
yeah, I want to thank this organization that's putting this on. You have no idea what this has meant to Louise and the friendships and what she's learned from you guys and just being with you is so important. So I thank each and every one of you that has been part of her life. So thank you. And it's helped us. So very glad to be part of this.
yeah.
Very glad. And I hope there are some moms here who are from Ma. I hope that you are thinking about some of the things that we're saying and taking on the hard work that comes with being a birth mom in reunion and being there for the adoptees, because that's the other thing that we as birth moms need to do is stand beside and behind the adoptees and encourage them to fight for their, so basically human rights. They have the right, all adoptees have the right to proper documentation, to whatever it is, wherever you are in this world, that you are treated fairly like every other citizen of that. We won't even go to, and I'll shut. My mind is going to the United States. I apologize. But anyway, yeah, we need to stand beside the adoptees and fight for them for what they need and what they're deserving and make things better for them to combat the complex post-traumatic stress disorder that they received when they relinquished and all the other nonsense that goes on with being an adoptee. It's a lot. It's a lot.
And for the group that we have, we meet the second Sunday of every month, and we purposely picked a time where we could get almost all of the time zones in the US, as well as touch the UK and European countries as well. So I think it's 7 o'clock your time in the UK, which is not too late, but we had to make it 2 o'clock Eastern because otherwise it's too early for the Pacific and the Alaskan people. And we've had people from Scotland and various parts of the UK join us, and we love to see that. And we hope to have more of you come and join us. And oh, we got something. Yeah, Samantha.
Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you for sharing that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would love for you to join our support group, but we also know that you need your own support and your own space and time. And we wanted you to know that our organization, Concerned United Birth Parents, would absolutely love to be part of helping you folks create more support for what's going on in the UK right now. And we would love to have. My English is failing me. We would love to be part of healing and understanding across the pond.
So we are throwing out that if you are interested and you want to help put together an online or in person, we would be happy with trainings or support you in whatever way we can. We could even help run them in the beginning and then, carry them over to you all. But yeah, we're here for you because we know a lot of the UK people come to US events, even though it's super late for you because there's not a lot in the UK in person and online. And a lot of it is tied to, adoption organizations. And we know the feeling of not wanting to interact with them and they don't really want to deal with the adults. We know that once you guys are 18, 25, they're done supporting you. And thankfully you guys were able to push for that change and get the Ofsted requirement removed so you can now access some mental health. But it's again, we're training the mental health professionals about what adoption really is. And isn't it a shame that we have to do that? But we do for now until we can get enough people trained up and educated that they can treat our population. So that's just a couple of things that we're just throwing out there for all of you all.
Yeah. I'm just looking, Diana. Yes, please. We want to talk to you. We
Yes,
want to talk to you.
yes.
And my dream, I don't know about the moms that are here. I don't know how many moms are here, but I'm a mom that, when I started doing the work on a relinquishment and adoption and I realized, with all the international adoptees that the United States has, and we traffic children across borders all the time, I think and thought of all the moms who don't have a voice, and I live in a country where I can reach out and find support. I live in a country where I have white privilege and all that entails. And I know that the majority of the moms throughout the world don't have that. And in a perfect world, I would love to reach out to all the moms and let them know that they're not alone, and that we're all in the same boat, and we're all moms of loss, and we can all help each other, and then we can stand beside and behind our adoptees. And I think that's really important. And I think, in this world right now that's a little upside down, I think that's a good thing.